going to share my slides. So thanks again for hosting me. I understand that I have 45 minutes, maybe now about 40 minutes left for my presentation. Is my slide visible?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Okay. Now, I've been asked to speak on the topic, effective leadership, transformational tools for success in an organization. I know that this conference has been organized for aspiring registrars, but I'm actually speaking to everyone. And so I think everybody has something to get out of this presentation. But the question, the bottom line is, can our tertiary institutions become great? Can we as individuals become great? Can the office we've been entrusted with, can it become great? So let everyone contextualize this question, according to what you do. Can you become great in what you do? In the context of Africa, I rephrase that question. Is the disease of cultural inertia, indolence, malaise, is that curable? Can anything good come out of Africa? Can anything excellent that can be compared with Harvard, Yale, name them, Oxford, can it come out of Africa? The question is, if so, what do we need to do and how? I want everyone to pay attention because principles are no respecter of persons. Principles are no respecter of persons. Any way you apply principles, you will get the same result. Let me rephrase my hypothesis. An institution is performing at a particular level shown on your left as a horizontal line. But the institution decides to change how they do business. They decide to, they found out what to do and how to do it. And when they implemented such, they came out of the black box, of course, excelling instead of continuing in their old trajectory. So the question for you and I is, what is in the box? What is it that they did and how did they do it? Of course, I can assure you it's not black magic. So what happened in the box? Let me put it in a national context. In 1985, if you compare the GDP per capita of Korea, South Africa, and Uganda, of course, Uganda is quite low, but South Africa and Korea in 1965 were at the same level, which is also the average GDP per capita globally. However, about that 1985, Korea decided to do something differently. They found out what to do and how to do it. Of course, it was not obvious in 1985. However, by 1990, it was obvious that Korea was playing a totally different game, and they left many African nations behind. So question again, what is in the box? What is it that we should do to transition from average to greatness, from mediocrity to excellence? I don't know how many of you have been exposed to this, but what I'm going to share with you is derived from the book Good to Great by Jim Collins. Jim Collins was a professor of business administration at, I believe, Stanford for many years. And he and his graduate students spent 5 years to research what does it take an organization to go from average to great performance. And here are the tenets of that study. A trip to greatness involves many questions. Number one, what is it that we're supposed to do? This has to do with policy decisions. Number two, how are we going to do it? This has to do with methodology. Number three, why are we doing it? What are the benefits? Number four, when do we start and when do we finish? This has to do with timelines. Number five, who is supposed to be doing what? Who will occupy certain seats in that journey to greatness? And of course, the accountants will always tell you that the budget is very important. Incidentally, if I ask every one of us, do me a favor as you're listening, write down, go to the chart and tell me which of these 6 questions is the most important, you consider to be most important. Go to the chart and write it down. I'll give you a few seconds to do that. Just go to the chart and tell me which of those questions you think is the number one question that must be answered before the trip to greatness can be started. Anyway, we will look at the answer later. You will find out that many of you, by the way, will give different answers. And if care is not taken and allow us to discuss it, the whole place will become chaos. We will have different answers, different opinion, and I will come back and look at the comments. Okay, but let me talk about the framework of the study. Professor Collins and his colleagues identified Fortune 500 US companies that made the leap from good companies to great companies. What was the criteria for distinguishing good and great companies? For a company to be great, its stock return must be 3.5 times higher than the average stock return, and they must sustain that performance for 15 years. Again, 3.5 times stock return than the average market, and that performance maintained for at least 15 years. Criteria number 2. They compared these companies to a carefully selected control group of companies that are in similar business. For example, if it's a pharmaceutical company that made the leap, they make sure they find another pharmaceutical company in the same line of business that did not make the leap. And number 3, they carefully examine the 2 sets of company to discover the essential and distinguishing factors or the principles that they apply, which the other company, the select control group, did not apply. Let me just give you an example of some of the companies they studied. Circuit City was an electronic company, and their good to great criteria happened between 1982 and 1997. And you can see that they outperformed the market in terms of stock value by 18.5 times. Abbott Laboratory, almost 4 times. Fannie Mae, a real estate company, almost 7.5, and so on and so forth. All these companies met the criteria for greatness. Where are the comparable companies? Let's look at the comparable companies. For Abbott Lab, they compare them with Upjohn. They are both pharmaceutical companies. Sequel City was compared with Silo, Fannie Mae with Great American, and they are all in different businesses: pharmaceutical, electronic, real estate. Gillette, of course, you know. Kimberly-Clark is they manufacture paper and paper products. And of course, Kroger is a food company. So these companies actually are very vast in what they do. Now, I go back to the question, what is inside the box? Because if we know what's inside the box, if you and I apply it to wherever we are, any institution we are in, we will get the same great result. Let me just summarize their finding. They found out the number one thing that must be in place for any organization to be great are disciplined people. People of character, people of integrity. So go back to the questions I asked, the 6 questions. Which one is the most critical question to be addressed? It turns out that it's the who. If the who is wrong, everything else is wrong. If you don't have the right people working with you, it doesn't matter how excellent your vision is, you will not get there. The who is the number one question that must be answered. What was the second one? Disciplined thinking. People who are competent in their areas. People who know what to do, who are excellently trained in their area. But competence does not come before character. Character comes before competence. Many a time when we hire people and we look at their resume, of course, we are impressed with their background. We are impressed with the experience. But often what we don't pay attention to is their character. And yet it is the most important and the determinant factor in their success. And the third thing they found out is that you must put the right people in the right place. Placement. Placement. When these 3 components are in place in that order, it doesn't matter what business you do. It doesn't matter where you are, your location. Once these principles are obeyed in that order, with time, and let me emphasize that, it's not automatic, with time, it will lead to transformation. So I go back to the question, the number one answer is the who. Who is in the box? There are actually 2 types of who's we should address. And by the way, let me come back and talk about education. C.S. Lewis once said, education without values, as useful as it is, seems rather to make man a more clever devil. Let me ask you, in your various institutions, are you producing more clever devils, people that lack character, and you're just giving them the tools, the technical tools, all the skills they need just to do more wickedness? Or are you putting emphasis in producing people of value to whom technical knowledge and other skills can be added? What is your priority? Einstein once said, try not to become a man of success, but rather try to become a man of value. I lay this emphasis because universities must come back and put emphasis where it should be. Let us focus on producing people of value first and foremost, before we try to produce people who are successful. Let me go back to the study. The study, as I said, please pardon me, I'm going too fast. So the study says, discipline people first. Discipline people first. There are two types of disciplined people. Number one, the leader. They found out that the leaders that make impact are called level 5 leaders. Level 5 leaders. I will give you the characteristics of those leaders. And then the followers, the leadership team, second. Let me talk about disciplined people with thought, thinking, confronting brutal facts, and hedgehog. I will come back to these later, but let me talk about the quality of the leader that can lead an organization or even a nation to greatness. There are two distinct things they found about these leaders. First of all, they are level 5 leader compared to level 4 leader. Let me compare the two. A level 5 leader leads a quality management team, while a level 4 leader is a genius among 1,000 helpers. What is the difference? One sees himself as a member of the team, the other sees himself as bigger than life, to whom everybody else will worship. The level 5 leader first gets the right people on board, builds a superior executive team where everybody is free to give an input. The level 4 leader, because he is a genius, sets a vision, sets the roadmap by himself, even decides where he's going before he even gets a team. The team has very little input in the direction to which the organization is going. Again, what is the difference? One first builds a competent team, and together they decide where to go. The other one sits down, decides where he thinks they should go because he considers himself a genius, and often goes and gets yes people that will just follow him. And of course, the results are night and day. Let me go further and describe the level 5 leader. The level 5 leader has two distinct characteristics. Number one, professional will. In other words, desire to do things excellently according to international standards. And number two, personal humility, never promoting himself, never promoting his position, making everybody feel comfortable. The study at Stanford clearly showed that level 5 leaders create superb results. They are clear catalysts in the transition from good to great. They demonstrate an unwavering resolve to whatever must be done to produce the best long-term results, no matter how difficult. They are totally committed, totally dedicated, leave no stone unturned. But in terms of how they conduct themselves, they demonstrate a compelling modesty, shunning public adulation, never boastful. Compare this to how we often choose leaders in this part of the world. Do you know the leaders we often choose? Those that are boastful, those that are very loud, those that are, we hardly watch those who are calm, who are deliberate. Level 5 leaders act with quiet, calm determination. They rely principally on inspired standards, not on inspiring charisma to motivate. When they talk to their leaders, they don't just motivate them, today will be a great day. No, they motivate them by introducing quality standards that must be met. And they make sure they train them to be able to deliver at that level. Number three, they set standards of building an enduring great organization, and they will not settle for anything less. In terms of their conduct, they channel ambition into the organization, not into themselves. What does that mean? I have noticed, and I don't know how widespread this is, many a time people just use organizations to acquire qualifications that they will use to start looking for promotion elsewhere. Their focus is not really to build that organization, it's not really to bring that organization to a level of excellence. They're just using the organization to build their resume so that they can get better jobs. I don't know what percentage of the staff in your university, your organization have this mindset. But level 5 leaders do not think that way. They channel their ambition into the organization, not into themselves. They set up successors for even greater success in the next generation. They're always thinking long term. They are like pregnant mothers that are constantly thinking about what should I do to protect the child, the fetus in the womb. Number 4, they look in the mirror, not outside the mirror, to apportion responsibility for poor results, never blaming other people, external factors, or bad luck. In other words, when things go wrong, they take responsibility. They said, it is my fault. If I had monitored better, if I had followed up, if I had provided for their success better, it would not have happened. So I take responsibility. Of course, they will go behind and sit with those involved and discuss with them how to improve. But they take responsibility. But look at the other. They look outside the window, not in the mirror, to apportion credit for success of organizations. They credit other people. They credit external factors. They would even say it's good luck. They hardly accept credit for success. They say, it's my team. Without them, nothing would have happened. A level 4 leader will do the opposite. When things go wrong, they never take responsibility. They apportion blame to somebody else. But when everything is going well, they will tell you it's because of their genius. They are genius. I've talked about level 4 leaders, so I'm just going to skip that because that's exactly what I just finished explaining. Now, Jim Collins put forth a hypothesis about these two types of leaders, level 4 and level 5. He concluded that those who do not have the level 5 leadership capacity seed or capability seed, and those who have the seed. So in other words, you cannot be a level 5 leader if you are not a selfless person. You cannot build an organization if you are not dead to your own selfish ambition. If you are not totally focused on how to build your organization, those who are driven by selfish ambition hardly ever become great leaders because they are using the organization to build themselves. And once they get a better opportunity, they leave. I'm sorry to use this analogy. It's almost like someone who wants to enjoy sex but doesn't want to carry the pregnancy. Once pregnancy comes, what do? They abort. But yet, it's meant to lead to pregnancy and to children that should be nurtured. Which type of leader are you? What is your mindset? Are you a nurturer? Are you a leader that truly are leading your organization, believing in the greatness of that organization? Are you somebody who just accepted a position so you can build a resume, so you can take up another greater position, not really caring where your organization is? I think it's important that that word self-reflection, I've been hearing it since yesterday, and I think it's time that we do that. So we see that disciplined people is the beginning of a great organization. Once you don't have disciplined, selfless, dedicated people, instead of building a great organization, they will use the organization to build themselves. Okay, what is the next step? Discipline thinking, competence. What is involved here? Let's look at that second aspect. The executives who ignited the transition from good to great did not first figure out where to drive the bus and then get the people to take it there. No, they first got the right people on the bus and the wrong people off the bus. Then together, they figured out where to drive. Then together, they figured out where to drive. Essentially, they have the right persons. If they have the right persons in the bus, the right people in the right seat, then they believe they could figure out how to make it somewhere that is great. And let me just lay down some key practical discipline in maintaining such a great team. Number one, when in doubt, don't hire or appoint people to positions. Keep looking. Keep looking. Because if you don't have the right person on the bus sitting in the right seat, that bus is not going anywhere. Many a time, emotions take over, especially nepotism. We have to find a job, and so we hire people that are not qualified. Professor Collins proposed what he called Packard's law. What is Packard's law? No organization can grow consistently faster than its ability to get enough of the right people to implement that growth and still remain a great organization. In other words, you cannot outgrow the number of good people you have in your organization. If you try to outgrow that, then the system is not sustainable. It will come back to equilibrium. Part B says, if output growth outpaces growth rate in quality people, such growth cannot be managed and the organization cannot sustain that growth. So if you want to grow, it means always have in stock, always have in your organization more good people than you need, more good people than you need, more good people than you need. And that leads to the second practical discipline. When you need to make a change, if you find out that you have made a hiring error, please act as soon as you can. With that, of course, considering other factors. The moment you feel the need to tightly manage someone, a hiring mistake has been made. Because when people are competent in their area, all you need to do is give them guidelines and they know what to do. It never meant managing them day by day, minute by minute. When you find yourself doing that, there's somebody is not competent in the area they claim to be. So the best people do not need to be managed, but to be what? Coached, trained, guided, or taught. Letting the wrong people hang around is unfair to all the right people, as they inevitably find themselves compensating for the inadequacies of the wrong people. And we see this all the time. People that are hired because they are relatives or because somebody imposed them on you, and they are totally irrelevant to you. And those good ones who are in the office are the ones who are carrying the burden. And they will be discouraged, because when the efforts of strong performers are impeded, they become frustrated and they could be driven away. So when you need to make a change, if you find out that somebody is not performing, make a change. Of course, we could train them first, give them opportunities to improve, do additional training for them. But when that does not work, of course, we should do what is needful. Practical discipline number 3, put your best people on your best opportunities, not your biggest problems. What does this mean? Managing problems make an organization good, but managing opportunities make an organization great. An organization can only grow when they manage their opportunities. They don't necessarily grow when they are just solving problems. So this practical discipline says, don't waste the energy and the talents of your best people just managing problems. No, find people who can handle that. Put your best people in your best opportunities. It's through opportunities that are fully exploited that you grow. And this second part, part B, is important when we need to sell off. This is only relevant to business organizations that have different subsidiaries and they want to sell it off. And they said, if you ever need to sell off any aspect of your business, please don't sell off good people. Keep them, because good people are very hard to find. Sell off everything else, but do the best you can to hang on to good people. So that's the end of that discipline people. I'm gonna rush through the rest because I just wanted to really emphasize the importance of developing and having disciplined people, people of character, character before competence. Character before competence. I would rather hire someone of character and then train them to gain competence than hire someone of competence that has bad character. You will never, never succeed in putting character in them, because the pride of competence often will not open them up to receive, to be humble, to receive character. So it's best to start the other way around. Now, let me go on and discuss the discipline thinking aspect. The discipline thinking aspect. For an organization, once you have the right people in place, you have a level 5 leader who is professionally competent and also humble, so that his ego or her ego does not get in the way, and you have a competent team that can sit and discuss critically on issues, then the next thing an organization must do is to sit down with your leaders and examine all the brutal facts facing the organization. All the brutal facts. It is impossible to make a series of good decisions without first confronting the brutal facts that face your organization. The good to great companies operated in accordance with these principles, and the comparison companies generally did not. They didn't sit down to scan the organization, get all the facts on the table before they start discussing which is relevant, which is not relevant, what's the priority. Leadership is about vision, as well as creating a climate where the truth is heard and the brutal facts are confronted. To get the brutal facts in an organization means you must speak to everyone, from the top leadership to even the cleaners, even the security people. And in order to get the truth from everyone, you must create an environment that is safe, where they know that they can speak the truth and not face reprisals. So it is the responsibility of the leader to make sure that that environment is created. But you see, the study says there's a huge difference between opportunity for people to have their say and opportunity to be heard. Those are different things. Just because you gather people and say, oh yeah, okay, what's on your mind? Your body language may be asking them what's on your mind. I mean, your mouth may be saying that, but your body language shows you're not ready to hear it. So they're gonna tell you what you want to hear. But good to great leaders understand this distinction. Hence, they create a culture wherein people have a tremendous opportunity to be heard. People know that you can say what's in your mind and you are safe. So as a result, ultimately, the truth in that organization is heard. And no leader can make an informed decision without the truth. A leader needs to know the truth so that he can make relevant decisions. I'm amazed working with many top leaders in nations, from presidents to governors. I'm amazed how much information is filtered before it gets to them. Many of them don't really have access to the truth. Information is significantly altered before it gets to them, and yet a leader needs to know the truth. So how can a leader create an environment where the truth is heard, where you can get all the facts that will help you make quality decisions? Number one, lead with questions, not answers. Ask people questions, and ask open-ended questions so that they can respond in how they want. Number two, engage in dialogue and debate, and not in coercion. Don't force them, don't threaten them. Engage in dialogue. If you need to take them out, take them out. If you need to, whatever environment where they will be safer to talk, take them there. What you want are facts that will help you make quality decisions. Number three, conduct autopsies without blame. In other words, when you have gathered facts, then sit down with the people and conduct autopsies. What happened? What principles are violated? What procedures are violated? Let people understand where things broke down without not being condemned. Okay, and finally, build a red flag mechanism. A red flag mechanism is a system that a leader sets up to checkmate him or herself. For example, as a leader, you can find one or two persons and say, please monitor me when I begin to cross certain boundaries. For example, I'm no longer respecting the finances of the organization. I'm crossing certain boundaries, or even the way I speak is beginning to be threatening to people. Just tell them, will you kindly come and let me know? Because sometimes we don't know ourselves, or we don't see our back. Only others can see and tell us. Please, moderator, give me an idea how much time I have. Okay, I'm going to move on to disciplined action, or let me finish with disciplined thinking. I've talked about brutal facts, creating an environment where the truth is heard. I'm going to talk about the hedgehog concept. What is the hedgehog concept? After I have heard about all concerning the organization, I know everything. Not everything is equally important. So we have to now go through a process of prioritizing what is important, what is not important, what should we focus on, what should we not focus on. The process of now focusing on what we want to really do is called the hedgehog. The hedgehog are those few things. Having known the truth, having seen everything, where do we really want want to focus? What will make our organization great? So Hedgehog concepts are crystalline clarity and elegant simplicity of understanding as to what the organization needs to do to be unique and to succeed and to achieve their vision. We can't do everything. We cannot be everything to everyone. We must find what we can do to be excellent at and fulfill our vision. Like scientific insight, the Hedgehog concept is arrived at through an iterative process of right people engage in various dialogue and debate. So here's the process. When you sit as a group, you ask questions, and I will tell you what the 3 circles are, and then you dialogue, the executive decision is guided, and you implement, you come back, you keep refining until you finally come to those critical things you need to do. Now, one of the things that will guide the determination of your hedgehog are 3 questions. Number 1, what are we deeply passionate about? What are you passionate about? What do you really passionately want to achieve? Is developing students of character number 1? Or is it developing students that will be technically savvy? You need to decide, what are you passionately about? Number 2, what can you do best in the world while fulfilling that passion? Is it teaching? Is it research? What are you going to focus on? Is it going to be both, while producing such students of value, of character? You know, how are you going to do it? And number 3, if we apply competence to our passion, what economic incentives could be derived by achieving them? What economic incentives? For example, why is Yale, why are those schools popular? Why does most leaders in the world want to send their children there? Why is the waiting line so long? And yet they are very, very expensive institutions. Why? We need to ask those questions. If you in your institution can find your passion and you can deliver it with excellence, do you know the queue to be admitted into your school will also be long, because everybody knows your passion, everybody knows you're excellent in achieving it. And of course, those that want to produce their children along those lines will come to your door knocking. So we need to know our passion. We need to know the techniques, the approach, the methodologies that we need to deploy to achieve that passion. And we need to announce it to the world. People will come and pay in order to be there with you. So those are the 3 concentric rings. What is my passion? What can I do best in? And then how do I make it profitable? How do I make it lucrative? So, so that's the summary of the discipline thinking. Get all the facts, but most importantly, Hedgehog said, distill them into what you are passionate about. And by the way, let me just go back and say to you that especially registrars, you can use these 3 questions to guide students in finding their major. What are they passionate about in life? Okay, which discipline can best help them to achieve that passion? And then how do they package themselves when they leave so that they can make a living, still expressing their passion? If every student is connected to his or her passion and they're connected to the department or departments, because it could be a multidisciplinary major that will deliver. If they will do that, you will have committed students because they are driven by passion. But most of them do not. So they don't like what they do. They're just in school because they are told to. And of course, we know the result of that. The last two things I want to talk about is disciplined action, culture of discipline, and also the role of technology in achieving greatness. This quadrant illustrates what happened in organizations with varying degrees of cultural discipline and the ethics of entrepreneurship. When the spirit of entrepreneurship, which is the spirit of exploration, the spirit that's daring, looking for new ways, when that spirit is low, and the disciplinary culture in an organization is low, of course, you create a bureaucratic organization, which is what you find in many government offices. Just moving files, only really very few of them are productive. Most of them, I've worked with them, so I know. You just see people sitting there wasting time, not doing anything. Why? The culture of discipline is low, and the spirit of entrepreneurship, the freedom to explore new things, is also low. When the discipline culture is high and the entrepreneurial spirit is low, you have a hierarchical organization, just given perking orders. Of course, we see this in the army, where they are trained to just receive orders. But then a startup is where the spirit of entrepreneurship is high, but the culture of discipline is low. And I will explain what culture of discipline is. In a great organization, the culture of discipline is high because they are not doing everything. They've decided a few areas they want to focus. But also, spirit of entrepreneurship is high. Why? Because in those few areas they want to focus, people are given the latitude, the freedom to explore different ways of doing it. So both spirit of entrepreneurship and the discipline are at work, and that leads to a great organization. What's the summary here? The summary is that we should know precisely the areas we want to focus on, because we can't do everything. But once we decide, all our budgeting should focus in those areas. It should focus in those areas, but then we should give people the latitude, the freedom to explore different ways of expressing those areas we have chosen. Finally, I want to talk about the role of technology in greatness. When technology is used correctly, it becomes an accelerator of momentum. But technology is not a creator of it. If you don't have that system of, first of all, choosing the right people, choosing the right team, looking at the critical issues, to get the brutal facts, and then focusing on the few you want to do, if you don't have those things in place, technology will not solve your problem. Technology is an accelerator, not a creator of efficiency. It's the system you have on ground that technology will enhance. So good to great companies never begin their transition with pioneering technology, for the simple reason that you cannot make good use of technology until you know which technologies are relevant to your hedgehog. You must know your hedgehog first. You must know your passion. You must know how best to express it. You must have an idea how it can be economically fruitful. And then technology will enhance that, will make it faster. So which are those? those and only those that link directly to the 3 intersecting circles of your hedgehog. If a technology doesn't fit squarely within their 3 circles, they ignore all the hype and fear and just go about their business with a remarkable degree of equanimity. In other words, good to great companies are not technology frenzy. They don't have to go for the latest. They only look for what will enhance their hedgehog. So all technological decisions are made in the context of their hedgehog. And therefore, the culture of discipline they have instituted says, don't do anything outside the hedgehog. Of course, our hedgehog can be reviewed maybe after 3, 4, 5 years. Some may be dropped, others increase or whatever. But at least within that period, you've decided to focus on certain hedgehogs. All the technologies you implement must be to enhance that decision. However, once they understand which technologies are relevant, they become fanatical and creative in the application of those technologies. In the comparison companies, by contrast, we found only 3 cases of pioneering in the application of technology. And finally, as I'm concluding, once all these are in place, then the studies say, allow time for all this to come together. Even with the right leader, the right team, even when you have looked at all the critical factors, you've chosen your hedgehog, even when you have established a culture of discipline that doesn't allow us to do whatever we like, they focus on the key areas, and even when we have implemented the best technology, the studies say, like a flywheel, you have to allow it to gather momentum. Study has shown that those companies that have implemented the good to great model, it normally takes them 3 or 4 years for everything to be in place and then to achieve greatness. The overall feel of what it was like inside the companies as they went from good to great is best described by a flywheel. No matter how dramatic the end results, the good to great transformations never happen in one fell swoop. There was no single defining action, no grand program, no one killer innovation, no solitary lucky break, no wrenching revolution. Good to great comes by decision, turn by turn of the wheel that adds up to sustained and spectacular results. And so you have it. What's in the box? Level 5 leadership. Discipline people first, and then disciplined thinking or competence and focus, and of course discipline and action, proper institution of discipline and proper use of technology. In summary, greatness is not a function of circumstances. Greatness, it turns out, is largely a matter of conscious choice and effort. Thank you so much for listening to me, and may God bless you.